All right, welcome to the Wednesday Team Prosperity Weekly meeting. This week, we're going to go into a continuation of our marketing series. A couple of weeks ago, we did an intro to marketing. Last week, we did a concentration on LinkedIn. And this week, we're going to do a concentration on Facebook marketing. What works, what doesn't work, why, etc. So one of the things that, that we've been looking at lately is there's so many like macroeconomic things going on. So one of the things that we can adopt into our communication, conversation, language is things that are newsworthy, things that are trending. So we're going to talk about that, how to flip that type of newsworthy, trending information into leads, into booked meetings and appointments, and into what you guys are looking for on the backside, which is revenue and income. We've been going through this just as, just FYI for you guys to help you understand what position that we're in right now. That huge mortgage bubble that brewed up after the financial crisis, that further, bubbled up after COVID, when the Fed came in and lowered interest rates again, that party's pretty much over. And you can see from the statistics, the activity starting to drop in terms of mortgage applications, in terms of the refinances, 56% lower than a year ago. Interest rates are starting to tick up. What does that mean for a company like us? Well, it means that, the refi game and the purchase of new properties is mostly going to come down to normal activity, maybe even below normal. So that means a lot of that activity that happened over the last few years, those people are now in homes and in mortgages they're planning on keeping for a while. And now their thought process goes from the refinance to how am I going to get rid of this mortgage? That's where you guys come in. Notifications and reminders. So just, another FYI, you can't get in front of people too much to notify them, reminders of a meetings. I told Alana a few minutes ago, I just came out of a meeting that the guy didn't make it. And part of it was my fault because I got so busy yesterday that I didn't follow up with him to make sure that he was aware of the meeting, knew about the meeting, was going to make the meeting. Yes, he's getting automated reminders, but it's not enough, guys. You have to bring a personal element to your meeting follow-ups, making sure that the people are going to be there. If there's any prerequisites they need to bring, make sure they're aware of those. Don't just leave everything to chance, because when you do, things fall apart, things fall through the cracks, and that's going to cost you and your agency money. So never think that, hey, I'm getting in front of this person too much to remind them, because we're all spacey these days. We've got information flying at us at the speed of, very, very quickly. So what you have to understand is that even myself, 5 minutes after I get off a conversation, sometimes I'll forget what that conversation was about. So A, you want to take notes, and B, you want to constantly be in front of people, reminding them about what that next action step is, depending on what came out of the last conversation. We started 12-week year at the end of January. We're in week 4 now. The only reason I bring this up is to remind you guys that the 12-week year teaches us the value of the moment, how to work in that moment, what to do, what not to do, what's going to lead us in the right direction, why, how to craft a vision. But mostly it tells us from an agency growth perspective, we don't need a crystal ball to look into the future and tell you where your agency is going to be or not be. Only thing I need to know is, what did you do yesterday? What did you do last week? What did you do last month? And the combination of just looking at your activity, I can tell you where your agency is going to be or where your agency is not going to be. The mass action on the front side to fill up these pipelines, that's what you need. If there's no traffic coming down your freeway, then, if you set up a toll, there's no money being collected at that toll. Same thing here. If there's no traffic coming into your online pipelines, there's no ability to create meetings. There's no ability to create outcomes. So understand that it all funnels reverse back to you in terms of activity. We talked about this a little bit a minute ago, but you've got to understand that you can use news, you can use trending topics to your advantage. So understand that what's happening right now, inflation's here, inflation's affecting our wallets for most every American, and inflation is starting to be on the minds of most Americans as they go to the grocery store, as they go to the gas pump. So what you need to understand is that inflation does a number of things. It's a hidden tax, cost us money. So people are having, to pay more money for the same amount of goods they did before. Inflation also does another thing. It causes the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates. And when we raise interest rates, a couple of things happens. If we have variable debt that's not a fixed interest rate, it's going to cost us more. New debt is going to cost us more. So the great, amount of risk that was taken on and debt taken on over the last decade or so, that's now coming to an end, and people will need to deleverage out of that. So when interest rates rise, also people have the ability to get in other products on the asset accumulation side that pays them more. So as interest rates go up, we don't want to have debt. We want to have assets that benefit from those rising rates. That's the only real way to, stay at pace and keep ahead, because otherwise, combination of all those forces on a typical American budget is going to be catastrophic. Great companies, they do three things continuously. They hire, invest, and advertise. If you're not out there continuing to try to grow your agency and understand what it takes to grow your agency, if you're not dying, if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not expanding, you're contracting. So there's going to be forces, just like we teach our clients. Money is working either for you or against you. Same thing here. Your agency growth and what you're trying to accomplish is going to be heavily affected by your ability to mentally understand what it takes and then go out and then execute that on a day-to-day plan. You got to be seen and heard. We've talked about this, but especially online, like what we've been talking about, online advertising, platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook, et cetera. You got to be seen and you got to be heard. This doesn't mean that you're supposed to be obnoxious in the marketplace. It just means that you can't stand over in a corner by yourself and basically talk or mumble to yourself. You've got to be seen, you've got to be heard, you've got to try stuff, you've got to fail, you got to get out of your comfort zone. We're going to talk about some of those things today. Remember, the process online is to build, engage your audience continuously, and then at the right time, you're selling to the appropriate parties. Those are the three activities that are happening daily to grow your business. Once again, if you're not building your audience, then you don't have an audience to engage, and no sales are going to come out of that. So the front line, just like of our pipelines, this has to be a continuous motion in your business. All right, you guys, last week we talked about, on Wednesday's team meeting, building brand awareness on social media. What does that mean? Connecting to opportunity through the LinkedIn platform, why it's valuable, importance of complete LinkedIn profile as people are looking you up online through things like Google searches or going directly through the LinkedIn platform. You got to have a complete profile, posting on LinkedIn, playing to the LinkedIn algorithm, what that means and why it's valuable to you, and then helpful engagement tips. That's on the YouTube channel and the Facebook group. That'll be there for the time to come. As you have new people coming in and they're wondering about LinkedIn, they can start here. So this week, really what we're talking about is the other side of what I call the big two. Facebook is or LinkedIn is a professional site. So as we're operating in there, you're going to see some similarities in terms of the way we post, how we post, what we're trying to post, but it's more professional interest in LinkedIn. And then Facebook is more personal interest. So once you understand the differentiation between them, you can start to organize how you want to conduct activity on both platforms. However, a lot of the same things that we do on LinkedIn transfer over to Facebook and vice versa. So let's talk about this. First of all, like I said, you got to grow your audience. And a lot of that comes from understanding in a platform like Facebook what that means. I get a lot of agents that come in, they jump on those maybe insurance groups, and they find that's very frustrating. Everybody's pitching, selling, arguing with each other. That's not what really Facebook is about. Facebook is about the ability to go out and surround yourself with like-minded people. And that's very, very, very important. It's not about the product and service that you have to offer. It's about surrounding yourself with like-minded people. I'm a big Duke basketball fan. I'm in Duke groups. People are talking Duke basketball. It's a great way to surround myself with like-minded people, have something to talk about, comment, engage with them, and pull the ones that I want to into like a friendship circle. And then we can take that conversation, a little bit deeper into what I do, maybe to the message center. But you don't start off by cramming stuff down somebody's throat on a platform like Facebook. They're not scrolling through to be sold. They're not scrolling through to be hard pitched. They're scrolling through mostly, wasting time seeing what's going on. So, Find out what you like. Like David in our group, he's a big Steelers football fan. It's a great way to go in, surround yourself, talk about something you want to talk about, and then gradually be able to extract some value out of those conversations with new friendships and then, business related conversations. Alana, she's in, our son has autism. She's in autism recovery groups. Great opportunity for her to build. It's not fun to talk about autism recovery, but it's something she's passionate about. She shares ideas. She gets ideas from other parents and moms. Great opportunity for her to connect with people. Whether it's healthy living, I collect vintage baseball cards, whatever it is on this platform, guys, it's not about shoving something down somebody's throat immediately as you meet them. It's about like having a cocktail party and talking about things that you genuinely like to talk about. Once you understand that, this becomes an easier process and not so much of a grueling process for you. First thing you have to understand about Facebook is there's a lot of eyes on there. So you want to be where there's a lot of eyes. Now, not all those eyes fall into the people that you want to talk to and that you can help. But once you start to identify those people, understand Facebook has a very, very, very large audience that you can take advantage of. The secret ingredient online, and we talked about this a little bit in the LinkedIn last week, it's stories. Facts tell, stories sell. So effective conversion processes tell stories. That's what makes us humans. We feel emotional, all those things. By incorporating stories into your content, they're going to be less threatening. You're not pushing, cramming, shoving. You're just telling a story. And we're going to talk about what stories work. Stories can help you become more trustworthy. Remember, if I'm scrolling through and there's a great looking picture and a story there, I might get caught up for 15, 20 seconds reading that. Once again, it's going to stop the scrolling and give you an opportunity to get in front of people with a non-threatening approach. So how do we get our prospects reaching out and asking about our products and services? That's what we want, right? We want inbound marketing. We want people responding back saying, yeah, I want information about this. I would like to meet you. I want the guide, whatever it might be. And then secondarily, outside of that, how is that going to make you feel? What is it going to do to increase your sales, to increase your partner hires, to build the agency, get closer to your goals? Because that's what we're really talking about. And then how do we do this without complicated approaches that really nobody's going to be able to understand themselves and pass down to their agency? First of all, we have to understand the challenges, and everybody that comes into our agencies, they have typical challenges. Now, I'm not talking about the warm market. The warm market is usually something like, I don't have a warm market. People in my warm market don't want to hear from me. I've already gone through it too many times, whatever that is. But really, regardless of the market, social media, cold market, common market, it's the same challenges that your agents are going to hear, that you probably are having. So once you understand these as a problem, then all of a sudden we identify a solution. So first of all, one of the challenges that I hear is, hey, I just don't know what to do. I have no clue what to do online. Well, okay, that's an immediate problem. You have to find a solution for that. The solution comes from things like learning and going and spending some time, not a couple hours at night watching Netflix, but actually learning how to extract value from these platforms, spending a little time implementing, testing, understanding, hey, this worked, this didn't work. Why do I think this worked? Why do I think this didn't work? And then start to play to the things that work. The more you do this, the better you're going to get, and you're going to absolve yourself from that paralysis state that you're in, that I just don't know what to do. Once you know what to do, now you've got a generational ripple effect, because the people that are coming in, you've got something to teach them. This is what I did. This is what I learned. And the better that you can create that generational opportunity, the easier it gets for your new partners to get to their goals and us to get to our organizational goals as well. Second challenge, I just don't have time. And what the easiest way to understand the time factor is to place importance on stuff. So don't just tell yourself, I don't have time to do this. Tell yourself, you know what? Facebook marketing, LinkedIn marketing, online marketing is just not important to me. And once you start to understand how to talk to yourself, you'll realize that a lot of those, excuses that you're justifying in your head, they're a lot harder to do when you change the language. So if somebody doesn't have time to do something, what do they do during the day? And then reverse that language. Hey, is this important to me, or is this not important to me? Because the important things you're going to find time for. And then finally, the third biggest challenge is nobody sees me. I don't get any visibility. No one even knows. Nobody even reacted, all of those things. Well, that's kind of like once you start having activity, once you start testing activity, you're going to start to learn, what works, what doesn't work. You're going to look at influencers, people that are making it happen. What are they doing? You don't go from 0 to 100. It's a little bit of a process, but I promise you that if you put some time, energy, resources into online marketing, it's the ticket that's going to grow in terms of get you that exponential velocity that you're looking for because of the ability to reach so many people in such a way. So what if, guys, that we can get into a habit and we can get into a model of creating a story of transformation online? So as you guys are going online and reading stuff, you need to make a list of what you stopped on and why, because if you're stopping on it and you're reading it and you're engaging with it, probably the other people that you want to surround yourself with would too. So not only learn from the things that you do, whether it works or it doesn't work, but also look at actually what's working in the marketplace, why, and learn from those people, mimic them. So what do we do online that's really going to work? Well, we've got to choose a story of transformation or result. And every day, if you're working this business, you're seeing transformations or results for your clients. They're coming in with problems. We're offering solutions. And some of those solutions are absolutely amazing in terms of the number breakdown. So it doesn't have to be personal story of transformation. It can be a client you've helped, just actually, just leave out their name and stuff, and then create a well-structured post around it. Choose how you want it to be posted. In the beginning, you need to go organic, learn some things that's not going to cost you money, because when you go to the paid advertising, you need to have a good idea of what you're doing. So as things start to cost money, it's minor tweaks to get you to a nice ROI instead of just major overhauls. And then your post needs to create and encourage engagement. And then naturally your prospect is exposed to the product, service, or opportunity at the right moment, not put it in the content, driving communication off to the message, driving communication onto opt-in pages, whatever it might be. Open more conversations, create more leads, close more deals. It's not really a hard overall aerial kind of understanding, just like we tell our clients when they're learning to bank like a bank, the aerial kind of view of that's pretty simple. The actual nuts and bolts of it are a little bit harder. So what you want to do is understand, getting in front of more people, opening more conversations naturally has a huge ripple effect for your business. What we need to understand is Facebook is the most advanced digital survey the world's ever known. And there have been changes, and Facebook's taken a major hit in terms of their market cap and their stock and such, but they're still one of the front runners for this type of model because you, as the end user, you are Facebook's product. So their value is primarily driven by how much they can find out about their users. It's kind of scary, but as a marketer, as someone in business, as somebody who's looking to get in front of people, certain types of people, Facebook knows a lot about you. And so when you understand how much they know about you, it's going to be easier for you when you're developing those personas to look at this stuff and identify, who do I want to talk to? Where am I going to find them? And what am I going to say to them? Remember, the algorithm is such that, Facebook already has people that want your product, service, and opportunity. So once you learn how to do this organically, test a few things, doesn't cost you money. When you move into the paid advertisement, if you choose to do that, understand that there's a lot of different ways that you can organize that. And Facebook will assist you in a number of ways. Facebook wants your advertising money. Facebook's going to let you get your structured post right in the middle of your prospect's newsfeed for pennies on the paid ads. Now, remember, you're not going to just jump into paid ads. You're going to work the organic side until you feel comfortable, but understand you do this correctly, you can get in front of the right people for little bits of money. But there's only one problem with the typical Facebook approach. And you guys see this every day. And like I said, if you're learning from people who are doing it well, you also want to learn from people who are not doing it well. And so that's the biggest problem. How do I do this? What's right? What's wrong? Well, first of all, we're going to just start with what's wrong. So when it comes from most business owners' approach to Facebook, and you guys see this, they're constantly tagging people. They're using their company name, logo, and marketing. They're sending those unsolicited messages with hard pitches. They're spamming those Facebook groups filled with others who are spamming the Facebook groups. They're posting links to their wall or just a ton of promotional posts. They run ads that are pitchy. They look out of place in the news feed. And so if we've done any of this or we see this in the marketplace, we know it doesn't work. And we have to learn from, like I said, what works as well as what doesn't work to avoid, those problems. Well, the good news is there are some legitimate answers, and there's been a lot of changes. So when you understand, what we're talking about here, you understand that mass changes that are happening cause some people that were existing in the marketplace to give up, and it makes room for new entrants to come in and take some of that share. Changes in platforms like Facebook over the last number of months have made some of those old approaches, obsolete or at least less effective. But like I said, it's opened the doors for people using new approaches, adapting to the new environment as people get frustrated, reduce their ad costs, change out of the platform completely. It opens up opportunities, like I said, for new entrants. So one of those opportunities to adapt and prevail is on Facebook, because as some of the privacy things have changed, some of the algorithm has changed, like I said, a lot of people are getting frustrated and giving up. It's an opportunity for you to come in. One of the things that I think works really well is to establish a connection, establish some type of a post with engagement that drives people over to Messenger. And you may be surprised, but Facebook Messenger a few years ago, wasn't really doing a whole lot. Now it's one of the leading messaging apps in the US. So understand, if you're pushing messages off to Messenger at the appropriate time, you can see here that, open rates, click-through rates, pretty high. So understand what you're trying to do. If you've got the post, you've got the engagement, you're taking some of that engagement off the post into the message center, that's a great time to have the opt-ins, the guides, the next action steps, whatever it is that you're really trying to push. But understand it's a process. You don't just jump from A to Z. There's got to be some process to get you from A to Z. We talk about this continuously, and this is not going to change. People are, when you talk about aesthetics, when you talk about scrolling through a platform like Facebook, one of the things that's going to buy you a few seconds is an awesome picture. Everybody loves a great picture. And if you follow that up with an inspirational story of transformation, really works well on this platform. So let's talk about the 101 kind of education breakdown of what we're talking about. Structured story posts is kind of an intro class. So why do these posts work so well? We talked about earlier, facts tell, but stories sell. Once you understand that, this whole way that we're approaching makes a lot of sense. People don't really listen until they feel understood. And we've talked about this in terms of statistics, why, it was in the upper 80s of the percent of salespeople don't make the sale is because they didn't do enough when they interviewed the prospect on the back end after the sale was not made. The prospect didn't feel like the salesperson did enough to get to know them, their situation, their problem, to be able to really help them. So you've got to make people feel understood. And then always, what is the goal? What's the objective of what we're trying to do here? Are you trying to get someone to Messenger? Trying to get someone to react or comment? Trying to get people to opt in to X, Y, or Z? When you're forming that kind of playbook or that storyboard of what you're doing here, understand what you're trying to lead them to. Don't leave that out, because that's a very important part of this. So let's go through the steps, 1, 2, 3. It's not really that hard. Might take a little bit of getting out of your comfort zone. It may take a little bit of, just exploring and playing with this. But once you really understand the process, it becomes easy to do this. So what is your ideal customer? What do you know about them? We talked about that. If I'm developing a persona, I want to know actually probably more about that persona than they know about themselves. And then you want to list out their problems, their concerns, their pains, their dreams, their desires, quote unquote, what keeps them up at night. And then list the biggest potential objections they're likely to have about what you're offering specifically. When you go into a post, when you go into a meeting, understanding beforehand, what are the typical biggest objections, and you can preemptively overcome those, makes this process a lot easier. And then determine their language. How do they talk? What are their buzzwords? Speak in the language of who you're talking to. Step two, you got to gather information. We call this the profits post. And so choose a story, a result, testimonial, someone who resembles your perfect process or prospect. And that profits acronym, that P, problem, pain, past experience, what's happening. The R, the roadblock or the reason they're not able to overcome that, or they're having that problem or pain point. What's the outcome? What's happening? And then what's the future, good or bad, leading down a specific path. And then the introduction to what you're actually talking about, the teacher, doesn't necessarily have to be human, and then the solution. So your your post doesn't have to include all of those parts of the acronym. That's up to you. But what you want to make sure that you do is follow some type of a system when you're posting these, and then structure your posts. So you've got to, like I said, get an attention grabbing picture. That's one of the most important parts of a post. It's probably, between 80 and 90% of the post in terms of your ability to get somebody to stop scrolling is going to be the picture. So think engagement, think fun, exciting, think things that will make, emotionally appealing. Doesn't have to be yours, and nothing stops. So when you're out there, understand, great picture, great story of transformation should get you some engagement. And then the elements, you've got to understand that just like writing a movie script, a story, or any type of things like that, there's going to be key elements. And one of those is the hook. Hook is important because this is the first few sentences, and you guys can kind of start to understand what we talked about last week in LinkedIn. Same thing. The hook is to do exactly that, to hook your audience in to want more. You're going to incorporate either a pain or an outcome, something that is either happening or a perceived problem they're having, and then use curiosity to move people forward. And then depending on the ad format, you may write the headline, but really that pain point is going to be part of the hook. And then the hook, like I said, is allowing us to have them click on the continue reading, see more, because that's one of the most important parts. That's telling platforms like Facebook that this is getting views and they should show it to more and more and more people. And then the body. So once you've got them hooked in and they're reading more, continuing, see more, whatever it is, now it's time to tell the story. So tell your prospects the story back to them through the testimonial story. Use parts of that acronym or the profits, and then appeal to hot buttons issues. Some universal ones are, time, money, and ease. And think about why somebody would be in the situation they are now, and why with the solution that you offer, what are the typical objections, and you can preemptively overcome those. And then what are the hot button issues? Use influence, those mental triggers, those emotional triggers, right? Likability, write like you speak, and then the trust. Don't be something you're not. People are going to see right through that. Be authentic, and don't be afraid to exhibit your flaws. Be real, be human. People are going to be attracted to that. Nobody's perfect. So this is what I kind of came up with, a typical storyboard. So if I'm writing an outline to an essay paper, I'm writing a movie script like we talked about, it doesn't matter. There's going to be an outline. And once you start to kind of piece the outline together, it becomes easier. So kind of putting all these together. Now I've got some really good news to report to everyone. This is a typical kind of like recruiting while I've not yet retired and traveling the world yet. LOL, just making sure that's not so rigid. Finally, things are coming together with daily leads, making sales, growing my business. I can tell you the best part really is what I'm doing now takes me less than 1 hour a day. A lot of what we do on the automation part, the marketing part, really doesn't take that too much time. When you're talking about structured posts like this, it could be minutes a day. And my posts and my prospects just don't respond. They're actually excited to hear from me. So if somebody's out there and they're looking to get into business or looking to expand their business, then, if they're struggling with lead generation, if they're struggling for people to be excited to talk to them, that's going to be a hot button issue. That's an emotional issue. And then I go right into like the solution. Imagine connecting with people who want to connect with you, who are interested in what you do, and they want to hear what you say, and they want to know more about how you can help them. It's a lot better than the other way of getting stood up, blown off by people who had no interest in talking with you. So this is a storyboard that creates a structured post. And then the only thing really is left out of here is that call to action. What am I trying to do here? Am I trying to push in a messenger, get them to opt in, whatever that is? Stories sell, guys. Stories will create engagement. Stories will create views. Stories will create you to introduce the next action step in a non-threatening and non-rigid way. And then finally, like I said, the call to action. Be clear. Tell them what you want to do next. If you want somebody to open the front door, don't put a lot of words around that. Go tell them to open the front door. Tell them exactly what they'll get and what they'll do. It's not mandatory, but it's a great way to lead with a valuable resource. And I think that what we've implemented, leading with value, leading with guides, leading with the how-to ebooks is a really great way to transition from a story like this into a call to action that's, once again, really non-threatening, not aggressive, but it's continuing to offer more and more and more value. On the call to actions, you guys, you have to understand it has to be simple. The higher the commitment level, in other words, the more that you're asking them to do, if you're asking them to do A, B, and C, there's going to be a low conversion. If you're just asking them to do A, it's pretty easy for them to do that. It's going to be a higher conversion. And then let's go run through some examples. So, I ran to my friend the other day and they told me they're buying a rental property, and they're building a real estate portfolio. But I asked, surely the house they bought 2 or 3 years ago, aren't they having to pay for that? Then she made the introduction to how she's doing it. So understand that people want to be in a place they want to be, whether that's internally or externally, where they're seeing the person in their neighborhood, keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing, that creates interest. People want to be where other people are that are experiencing success, right? Whether that's on the recruiting or the client side, you have to understand that and incorporate this type of language. And then the body, the body's got to be something simple, easy, low cost, time friendly that you're introducing, because when you combine things like what we have, education, technology, free ebooks, and all that stuff, the right parties are going to want to know more. And in your story of transformation, that person who's the transformative party, they're going to want to know more. And then finally, the call to action. So the call to action, like I said, is going to be really about taking your story and then transferring it to a next action step. Do you want them to message? Do you want them to comment? Do you want them to opt in? Whatever that is, give them the instruction in a clear, concise way. Don't put a lot of words around it, and understand, I'm directing you over here. This is what I want you to do. Real quick on paid advertising, guys, start organically. But if you're starting to do some of the paid advertising on your own, you want to start with low budgets to make sure that's not costing you a lot to learn. But you always, always, always have to know your numbers. We've got social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, ROI sheets in the Facebook group, whatever it is that you need. But in this example, we'll keep it easy, $100. And then if it takes 10 messages off, one of your ads to make one sale, then those $10 per message is the break even. So $100 divided by 10. So that's all you're looking is how much is it going to cost to get in front of people. Out of those people, who's going to take the next action step, and out of that action step, where down the line do I recognize the revenue or income, and then reverse engineer that back to, I know that I need to do this on the front side to be profitable and continue this on. And then you've got to grow your business fast. So as you're advertising, you got to test, and you got to split test sometimes what works, A, B, or C. C's dominating A or B. Let me go with C continuously. And then if something's working, just continue to do it until it becomes stale or no longer works. If it doesn't work, pitch it off to the side, start something new. Imagine reinvesting. So if you're getting a decent return on investment, 400, 500, 600%, imagine investing that back. And just like compound interest, compound marketing, compound advertising, compound recruiting, all of this stuff provides you with velocity. And then watch your business start to grow. And that's really exciting. It's not exciting trying to get a business up off the ground and gaining traction. It's exciting when you watch it grow day in, day out. And the last thing that you guys need to understand is that if we ran a traditional office building and we're doing the services that we have with the solutions that we have, everybody either coming in and out of that door is there for a particular reason. They're entering or exiting the building for a particular reason. Same thing here. Look at your platforms as a revolving door, and bring the right people in and to your story of transformation, to your business model, whatever it is. But understand, you're trying to attract a certain type of person to come into your quote unquote building. The other people, let them just walk past and walk by. So that's what we have for this week, guys. Let me stop the recording here.